cue me, or are you gonna tell me when to vibe going on? Or you just gonna set it up? I was just waiting for those horns. Should be coming soon, right? What you feeling down for? No, I like that. Just vibing right now. Don't be sad. Open your eyes. The sun is shining. The angels are dancing in heaven. You hear me?
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up. Listen, Father God, in your name I pray. Help the people find their way. Better days are coming by and by. We can make it if we try. Come on. Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Father God, in your name I pray. Help the people find their way. Look around and then I see a little old man and a homeless lady. They don't have no food to eat. Father, give them a warm place to sleep. Come on, wake up the people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up the people, wake up. Wake up, people, wake up now. Storms will come and storms will go. The earth may quake and still the souls of the ones we love, and some will die.
Some shall
But
die.
they're in heaven, so dry your eyes.
Dry your eyes.
Celebrate life.
Don't you cry.
Jump for joy.
Jump for joy.
Like a baby with a toy.
Little baby.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Dry your eyes.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up now.
Don't you cry.
Wake up the people, wake up. Wake up. Wake up the people, Lord, wake up. Wake up now. Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up now.
Wake up. The storms will come and the storms will go. The earth may quake. And still the souls of the ones we love. Yes, some will die. Yes, some will die. But they're in heaven. So dry your eyes. Dry your eyes. Dry your eyes. Don't you cry. Don't you cry. Dry your eyes. Wake up. It's gonna be alright. Dance in the streets.
It's gonna be alright.
Dance wherever
It's gonna be alright.
you may be.
It's gonna be okay. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. I know. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I know. Wake up, wake up. Well, yes, I know. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Good God Almighty. It's gonna be alright. You just don't get. Oh, Lord, Lord, Father God, name I pray.
Yes, good afternoon, family. Good afternoon, blessed radio family. This is another Afrocentricity Bookman show. I hope you're all good. This is Brother Jagna here today, and our show is earlier than normal. So we do have some special guests here today, straight from the USA, from Philadelphia, and we really got a good show for you for the next couple of hours. So I must remind you that this show is sponsored by Glass Are Us. Glass Are Us, you can find them on the Seven Sisters Road. And you can get them on 0208 800 6663. That is Glass Are Us. Please go there for all your glazing needs. 0208 800 6663. So, who have we got today? We've got three guests, which is unusual. So, we normally read our books, but we've got some live guests in the studio today. So, number one, we're speaking to a new young author called Tamu Mazama. She has just written a book. We're going to find out all about her and all about her book, which is really amazing because she's 17 years old, and I'm very jealous because I've been writing my book for a few years now, and I'm still not published, so I'm very jealous, by the way. So, okay, so we're going to introduce Tamu Mazama in a few moments, but also in the studio we have some of the greatest Afrocentricity scholars, Mazama, and also Dr. Molefi Kete Asante. So they'll be coming on later on, which is really cool for us to have these people here with us today. So we'll be moving on straight away. So first of all, we got a young lady, 17 years old, and now an author now, and she's going to let us know a bit more about herself. So Tamu, how are you today? And I've got the volumes up. Could you say that again, please, Tamu?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
That's great. It's my pleasure for you to be here as well. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Tamu?
So, I'm a 17-year-old. I'm homeschooled. I've been homeschooled for about 12 years now. And so, I travel around the world, and so it's influenced my writing and how I see the world, and it really taught me a lot about the word as well. So.
Okay, great. Okay, so your book. Can you tell us the name of your book now, please?
So my book is called 17 Dry Seasons.
17 Dry Seasons.
Yes.
Okay, good. So give us an idea. Why is it called that title, 17 Dry Seasons? What's the title from, please?
I called it 17 Dry Seasons for the main purpose of making it Afrocentric. In the Caribbean and Africa, institutions will have their children learn about the 4 seasons, but in Africa there's only 2.
Okay.
So I really wanted to go back to the African perspective.
Okay.
And so.
Okay, great. Because when I first heard it, I was thinking about 2000 seasons, but for another author you probably know about. But okay, that's really good. Okay, so why did you decide to write this book? Why did you decide to write it? What was the impulse behind you writing a book?
So I have 3 main reasons that I wanted to write this book. So the first reason was I wanted to inspire the young African population. I wanted them to know that they have a purpose in life and they have a mission, because there are too many teenagers like myself who grow up not knowing who they are, what their place is in the world. So I really want to inspire them and instill that sense of purpose and that they have something to live up to. So.
Okay, great. So the book is both for male and female?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. And for young young teenagers,
yes,
even the 20s?
Yeah, exactly. For all, I would say for all ages, because there's a lot of information in there that I think it's always important to look back and read.
Okay, so we don't want to give anything away because we want people to buy the book.
Yes.
Can you give a theme? What goes through the book? Or is there a main character in the book?
So the main character is Akasuwa, and she...
Akasiwa?
Akasuwa, yeah.
Okay.
And she basically... I'll just give a little brief.
Please go for it, yes.
She travels the world, and she just finds herself with African spirituality and living out her mission, and so she overcomes several obstacles. And
during the book, yes.
Yes.
So is it based present day, back in the past?
It's based present day.
Okay, yes. Good. So she traveled the world by herself.
Yeah, she travels the world by herself, and she's accompanied by someone, and so they embark on this trip to warn humans to stop polluting the ocean and
Okay,
the
okay.
consequences of it.
Okay, so and it's a culturally, as you say, that you draw on your African culture.
Yes, it's a Afrocentric perspective and lens and worldview. So.
And she uses her culture to solve the problems or the
Yes,
barriers she comes up
exactly.
against.
And it's with a blend of African spirituality and to also shed a light on African spirituality that has been demonized for thousands of years, and so
Okay, that sounds really good. So is there excitement in there?
yes,
Drama?
there is this conflict and how to overcome the conflict, and so it is pretty exciting.
It's a
book.
pretty exciting book.
Yes.
Good. So is it based on you or by any way means? Is it?
So that's an interesting question. So in some ways, I would say that I've been really influenced, and I've taken the things around me and I've put it in this book. So in
Okay.
a way, yes, a little bit.
So the main character, could you repeat the name of the character again? The main
Akasuwa.
Akasiwa. What does that name mean? Was it?
So Akasuwa is a Ghanaian name.
Okay.
And also you can find it in Baule as well. So I wanted to have African names in there.
Excellent. But has the name got a particular meaning or Akasiwa? Because is it Akan name from Akan
Yes,
people? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, yes.
That sounds good. So what would you say are Akosila her strengths? What are her
So-
strengths in the book?
Her strength is she's kind of a girl who's a bit confused. She doesn't know really what she's doing in the world, and so this journey really centers her, and she finds her purpose and her place in the world as a African young woman.
Excellent.
And so
Okay, so is it kind of a rites of passage? She goes through, she
yes,
grows up,
exactly.
she see, yeah?
A rites of passage, and everything she learns, people who hurt her, people who she loses. So it's really a
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So so at the end of the book, don't give anything away, but she is reinforced at the end of the book.
Yes.
She kind of knows who she is.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds really great.
Exactly.
I'll be reading that book, and I definitely want to get a copy. I spoke to my daughters, and I think they're going to need a signed copy from you later on. So I hope you got some with you.
Yes,
That's
that would
right.
be
So,
awesome.
so how long did it take you to write this book? How long from conception to kind of publishing? How long did it took you to write the book?
I started maybe about 8 months, I would say. It took
Oh,
me
that's,
8
that's,
months.
that's, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it
Okay.
took me 8 months, but I always knew that I wanted to write a book to insist on this message, on the messages that I've put.
On the message, go okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask: when you write, did you know when you start to write exactly how the story is going to go, the end, or how do you plan to write your because
So-
this is your first book? So how did
Yeah,
you kind of?
so basically for this book, I had a couple of ideas in mind, but
Okay.
truthfully, I didn't know exactly how it would go, and I was really pleasantly surprised that I let my imagination fly free, and it.
The imagination is the key thing
Yes.
here. Okay.
Yes.
So it changed as you went along. You changed it
I
maybe.
changed a little bit, and I added things, and I took out things. So
Okay, that's good. So I hope a lot of you youngsters out there, I know we've got a lot of viewers or little listeners, I should say, listening to this. So if you would like to write your book, please, you can see we've got a 17-year-old here who's published her first book now, and she started within a year, which is quite amazing because I've been doing my book for a couple of years. So within a year, she put it all together now, which I've really found amazing. And the themes seem very, because you are 17, so it seems kind of beyond your age, because a lot of people 17 years old, obviously we've got many who are very wise, some maybe their mind, I think there could be other people in a similar position and not quite sure who they are. When people do become teenagers, again, just generally people, who am I? What's my goal in life? What should I be doing? So I think it's really good. It should inspire quite a few people. So if
Thank
people
you.
would like to get this book, where can they get this book?
So you can get it on Amazon, and you can also get it on the publisher's website. Which
and the publishers are
Universal Rights.
Universal, right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So and can you give us the name of the book again, please?
So it's called 17 Dry Seasons.
17 Dry Seasons.
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent. So let me continue. I just want to find out a little bit more about yourself. What other things, well, let me ask you, what's your favorite books? When you read books, do you have some favorite titles or type genres you like to read?
I really like A Raisin in the Sun.
Okay, yes.
That book is extremely poetic.
Okay.
I like The Bluest Eye as well.
The Blues. I'm not familiar with that one. Okay, the Blues Eye. Yes.
By Toni Morrison.
Okay, sure. Yes. She passed away
Yes,
very recently. Yes.
recently.
Yes.
There are quite other few books that I also like to read. But in particular, there was one book that I read that also inspired me. It's called The Children of Blood and Bone, and so it's kind of similar.
Yes, I'm a bit familiar with that one there as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
So there's
That's really good. So, are you reading a book presently? Is there anything? I know you've been publishing your book or promoting your book. Are you reading anything at the moment?
Right now, I'm reading a book in French, and it's called Le Royaume du Patriarche.
Okay. And in English, that means?
The Kingdom of Patriarchal.
Okay, Peter Pinch. Okay, that's very good. Yeah. So I understand that you are into film as well.
Yes, I'm really interested in. Yeah.
So you'd like to make films? Yeah.
I would like to make political documentaries and historical documentaries.
Yes.
That's
okay.
one of my dreams.
Yeah, historical documentaries. Remember, you could make one together. That's one of my dreams as well. Which
awesome.
There's a serious demand for that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you, say money was no object. They said, here's $1 million, 10 million. You can make a film. What type of film do you think you might be on your mind to make now? What do you think is important or behind your list?
Right now, I think. Well, that's a good question.
Make you think. Yes.
I think that I would make a documentary of how the African people in the diaspora, the African people on the continent are connected, and to show how truly connected we are. So the spiritual links and the cultural links, how we're, because as a people, we keep denying our roots back to Africa. So I would really expand on it and show how beautiful that is, that if we unite and come together, that
the connection
make a difference.
Yes. Because I was actually speaking to a Ghanaian lady yesterday, and she's an elder to me, and she said when she came to the country, I said her children, because of the environment, they didn't want to wear African clothes, they didn't really like the African name.
Yeah.
But now she's got grandchildren. They said they just love the clothes, the culture. When they went home again, they just loved it. Because initially they said they felt a bit nervous. Oh, we're not quite sure what we're going to find. And we're not sure Africans is a bit scary, maybe. Yeah. But when they went there, they loved it. So maybe sometimes this environment shapes people's minds to think negatively, or they're unsure, is it good? And maybe the dominant culture, if people grow up in the West, it kind of influences them. So I think that could be a good part. So speaking about film, Tyler Perry, what do you think about Tyler Perry?
I think he is interesting, and he has a lot of influence in the United States on the African American community. So,
because I think he's in one level he's very good to what he's created, which is very good. But also it shows you that he's maybe he can see the bigger picture. Because I heard Spike Lee, obviously he makes Media, these kind of films, and Spike Lee was kind of criticising him. He was like, what are you making films like that for? But he created his money now, and now in theory he can do what he wants to do, because he's got these big studios, and I know he named a lot of the sound stages, that'd be called sound stages, and he named one of them after Spike Lee as well, which I think was kind of pretty good as well, seeing that Spike was kind of criticising his movies he made, So some people say, some people criticise Spike Lee on social media, he can't make this, but Spike Lee may be relying on people, certain studios to fund what he's doing, so it's a different thing, but I think what he's done myself, I think it's pretty good. We have to wait and see what movies he does create.
That would be really interesting to see what he does in the future.
Because I understand some of the what's the most famous Afrofuturism film came out? Black Panther.
Yes.
Black Panther. I understand some of it was actually filmed there, which I didn't realise it was up and running already at that time.
Wow.
Which is very good. Okay, good. Yeah. So Ava, is it Ava DuVernay?
Yes.
Will she be a role model to you?
She really is a great role model for me, and her work is just so brilliant, and she's very true to herself. I think when she expresses her artistic talents, it's really interesting.
I agree. She's very good, and she's kind of a true true to what she believes in. Yes,
Yeah.
and she. I think, like some of our guests we can have on there later, Dr. Asante and Dr. Mazama, they'll look people in the face and says, "No, this is the way I've got to go." So they don't mind speaking truth to power. Because she
are like that. Yes.
couple of ones she I know what she's done. I know she's done many more, but she did obviously the recent one was it When They See Us,
Yes.
which is very. Have you watched that one?
I saw that and it was very touching and
It was
emotional because you see the struggle that African people have to face everywhere and the injustice, you know, like a crime against humanity. So.
Crime against humanity. Yes, I 100% agree with that. So and she stuck with, and when you hear the full story, it's quite sad and amazing.
Yeah.
And we'll see what the system can actually do to people.
Yeah.
So it's good to expose it that way. 'Cause a lot of people who are not aware about these things
That's
are supposed to it, yeah. And also she did one called, is it the 13?
She did she
Yes.
did that, and she also did Selma.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, very
Which
true.
is
yes.
Awesome.
So a lot of films
Yeah.
are very powerful. So do films, emotional films, will your book evoke emotion in people as well?
I think it will. There are certain parts in it where it does bring people to be emotional.
Good.
So yeah.
So films, do you like sci-fi, suspense, action? If you want to go with films, do you like to see a range of films yourself?
Yeah, I really like West African films a lot. So I feel like it's very poetic and deep. And
Okay. So not
cinema.
Okay, good. So you talk about the more movies than more that the kind of soap opera style. Can they do like? Is it the Nigeria film? Nigeria really film industry is amazing. It's a big film industry. Yes.
There's a director that I really like called Saben Usman.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
excellent.
familiar.
Yeah,
did he just did he pass away very recently?
I'm not sure. But
Yes.
I will have to do my research.
Is he the one they called the father of African theatre or film?
Yes.
Yes, I think if I'm right, I think he did pass away kind of recently, and he made some amazing films.
His films are
Quite amazing.
Yeah.
And I think what I like about him as well, he didn't just really focus on just the city. He take the films out to the people in the villages, in the country, and show them films there. But I think one of his films he did when I think Senegalese fighters who fought the French.
Yeah.
And they came back to the barracks, you could say, and they demanded their money, basically their severance to leaving, and they were denied it. And it's a very tragic story, really.
Yeah.
So I think they took one of the French officers kind of a prisoner, but the sad thing about it is they promised, okay, don't worry, we'll sort it out for you. And then in the night they come along with tanks and guns and really blew them to pieces. They killed many of them, and they kind of hush up. So I know he did that film, and I believe it was suppressed for a while in France, or
Yeah.
but it eventually got shown. But I know a little bit about him. I've seen some things online about him, and he's an amazing filmmaker,
good. He's great.
He's a great, So between him and obviously Ava DuVernay, you got some good role models to show your films. So okay, that's really great. So what I'm going to do, we're going to have a short musical break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back on the other side, okay? So this is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show. I'm hoping you join our show today. We're just speaking with one of our newest kind of authors from our community. She's come over from the USA today. Her book is called 17 Dry Seasons. So please, you can get it on Amazon. Just Google it, really, and see if we can buy the book. I'm sure it'll come up. So we're going to take a short break here now, and we'll come back on the other side and with some more.
But I'll say it anyway. Black is our color, black is our name. Health, strength, prosperity, and wisdom is our game. Those black we are, and black we will always be. Black in the sight of everyone is so beautiful to see. Ah, da da, baby, yeah.
must last. Black man progressing in every way. 'Cause black we are, and black we will always be. Black in the sight of everyone is so beautiful to see. Oh, now, baby, come on and show me how really black you are. Oh, my darling. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Ooh, baba doo da.
Think you where you come from? As long as you're a black man, you're an African. No mind your nationality, you have got the identity of an African. 'Cause if you come from Clarendon, and if you come from Portland, and if you come from Westmoreland, you're an African. So don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. No mind your nationality, you have got the identity of an African. 'Cause if you come from Trinidad, and if you come from Nassau, and if you come from Cuba, you are an African. So don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. No mind your complexion, there is no rejection, you're an African. 'Cause if your flexion high, 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 your flexion low, low, and if your flexion in between, you're an African. So don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. No mind denomination, that is only segregation, you're an African. 'Cause if you go to the Catholic, and if you go to the Methodist, and if you go to the Church of God, you're an African. So don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. No mind your nationality, you have got the identity of an African. 'Cause if you come from Brixton, and if you come from Freesdale, and if you come from Wilsdale, and if you come from Bronx, and if you come from Brooklyn, and if you come from Queens, and if you come from Manhattan, and if you come from Canada, and if you come from Miami, and if you come from Switzerland, and if you come from Germany.
Greetings, family. We are back on the other side. I hope you enjoyed that little short musical break. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman show. This is Brother Jegna. We're doing an earlier show than normal today because we've got some special guests in the studio. So let me just remind everybody first that later today at 7 o'clock, at the Ma'at Centre. So that's the Ma'at Centre, 366A, High Road, Tottenham, N17, 9HT. We have the very special guest, Dr. Molefi Kete Asante, who I'm just about to speak to. And also, we also got in the studio Dr. Mazama, who really... many things, history, but African spirituality. We'd definitely like to speak to her on that today, and she'll be speaking on that on tonight. So they'll be speaking on tonight, Afrocentricity and the African mind, and the power of African spirituality. So please, this is this evening, Sunday 20th, today at 7 p.m. at the Ma'at Centre, 366A, High Road, Tottenham, N17, 9HT. So I must remind you that this show is sponsored by Glass Are Us. We can get Glass at us on 0208 800 6663. Please go to Glass at Us for all your glazing needs. If you mention this show, you'll get a nice 10% discount as well. Okay, so we're going to continue now with our special interview on an earlier show today. We're going to speak to Dr. Molefi Kete Asante. So it's a pleasure to speak to you today, sir. How are you feeling today? Okay.
I am feeling very, very well, and thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be on the Bookman show.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really great. It's a pleasure to have you here as well. Good.
Yeah.
So can you give... Well, if you spoke about yourself, we could be all here all day just talking about the books you've written and a lot of things you do. Yeah. So you do a lot of amazing things, yeah. So let me say, in 1980, I believe when you published the book called Afrocentricity,
yes,
the theory of social change.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about the book? Maybe just why you decided to put pen to paper on that book, especially, please.
Well, what I had discovered after I had reviewed and surveyed many books about African people, I had discovered that most of the books were written by African people from the standpoint of white people. That they were basically trying to explain us to white people. Okay. And in fact, if you look back at history in terms of the people that we consider some of our greatest thinkers, many of the works that they wrote were works that were trying to interpret Africans to whites, to in effect make black people, make white people comfortable with the black culture, black behavior,
right,
black history. So I wanted to write a book from the standpoint of African people, to explain and interpret our history and our culture from our own sense of being central to all of the narratives that concern us.
Excellent, good. Yeah, so looking at the world from our own standpoint, from our own point of view.
Absolutely.
Good. So if somebody said African-centered, what is it for a person to be centered, African to be centered?
To be centered is to, number one, to accept your own sense of personal and collective agency, that we in fact do things, and we are not just simply the acted upon, but we are the makers, the mothers and fathers of history, the makers of history, makers of civilization, and we are in our own historical narratives best suited to explain the world from our point of view without being on the margins of Europe or the margins of Asians or anybody else. We are ourselves central to our own narrative. And in fact, the reason that is important to state is because many of us have never stated that, and we have never practiced it. We have been, in a sense, dislocated. That is, outside of our own history. Because if you don't know your history, you cannot center yourself in it.
Okay. So understanding our own history is kind of critical to really recovering our mind, our intellect,
absolutely,
to understanding who we are as well.
Absolutely.
Yes. Because I always remember a quote from, it was Dr. Ivan van Sertima, and he said when he learned history as a youngster, and he says when they speak about Africa, they'll never focus on our classical civilizations,
no,
even if they're aware of them, but they'll maybe look on the periphery and they'd maybe find some person sitting on the floor tossing some bones, and say that's African culture, but they will never look at the sciences and the arts and things like that. Okay.
In fact, all the sciences and most of the arts are created on the continent of Africa. That is where human beings, Homo sapiens, start.
Of course,
and so
yes,
obviously those were the people who had to decide what was best to eat, and what was the meaning of the moon being full, and what was the movement of the stars. We had to decide that
Yes,
the
that's
movement
right,
of the earth and so forth. You see.
Because they kind of create a stories trying to, take away our history, and they say that in, for example, Nubia, Kemet, particularly Kemet, ancient Egypt, they say that people came from other places.
Oh yes.
But if somebody who created civilization came from other places, where's the evidence of this? Because they couldn't come. They came to Africa. They built pyramids. They had astronomy, but there's no evidence of it anywhere else. But
That's right.
I think last night you mentioned a Napta player.
Yes.
And-
Napta Playa, and in fact, older than Napta Playa is Nzala Ilanga, which is in South Africa, in the Mpumalanga province, which
Okay.
is the oldest architectural site in the world that built by humans. And,
Okay,
of
so
course,
you're not talking Great Zimbabwe. You're talking somewhere. No, you're talking
much
about
older than
much
Great
older than that.
Zimbabwe.
Okay,
I went to see it a couple of weeks ago, and it is the oldest structure, over 100,000 years old.
Okay,
so that's
okay.
long before the pyramids, even.
so we will need to do some research on Ilanga.
Yes, Nzalo Ilanga, which means the birthplace of the sun.
Okay, excellent. So that the connection with the sun is very major through Kemet. Okay, good. So I've got some quotes from from your book, from your first book there, and if you can elaborate on what it means. So you say that I think it said life is circular. It's not linear. It can't be analysed in a single line. It is inherently circular. So one's life. So is it really the African culture that life is circular? We don't really look on a straight line, which I think Europeans do.
We say circle, or sometimes we say in various cyclical, in the sense that what we believe normally in African culture throughout the continent and throughout its diaspora, if we really reflect on our history and culture, is that the ancestors really are not dead, that they are always with us. And so the notion of ancestral reverence is very fundamental to almost every African culture I know. I don't know of any African culture where it does not exist, except, there are cultures where it's been wiped out of the minds of black people.
Sure.
But black people have always believed that, simply because we felt that within the community, that the community was not just the visible community, but it was also the invisible community. And now, even science has come to argue that there is more that's unseen than there is that's seen. So it's a very complex thing, but I think that Africans have always believed that. And we have not necessarily believed in reincarnation in the sense that we come back as animals, but we have believed in the sense that people come back in their children and their grandchildren and so forth and so on. So that's a different kind of sense of circular.
Yes.
And in terms of our history, we have always also believed that indirection is probably just as strong and just as powerful as direction. So that's a part of our culture in terms of proverbs and illustrations, stories, the way we talk, the way we give examples
Proverbs,
of advice.
yes, that's right, yes.
Sure.
Excellent, yeah. So I do, and also the circular nature, and that our ancestors are still there.
Yes,
it's
right.
very scientific, because they say matter changes itself. It never destroys or goes away completely. It always kind of changes itself, moves into a different form, to a thing. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So the Europeans like to stress in Africa that we've got countless tribes, I don't like to use that term, or countless languages, and they always focus on our differences. So what do you think, as an African-centered person, what should Africans do? Should we think about, we're all different people, we've got different tribes, different languages?
Well, the thing about the different ethnic groups is very interesting to me, is because what it demonstrates is the creativity of African people. There are more than 3,000 languages in Africa. Which means that it is the most prodigious producer of languages anywhere in the world, the continent of Africa.
Yes.
So we have all these languages, but the interesting thing is that the basic culture, the profound nature of the culture is the same. So that if I am in Zulu or in Yoruba or Akan or Baluba, that I can generally tell you basically what the fundamentals of those cultures are, that they are all the same. I mean, several years ago, I edited a volume, two volumes with Dr. Mazama, whom you will interview.
Yes.
Regarding, called the Encyclopedia of African Religion. And
I actually do have a copy of this, yes.
Oh, you have? We were very
copy,
good.
yes.
We were very surprised to discover the similarity of all African cultures.
Nice.
So that's why this notion of different ethnic groups is not a major problem. I mean, South Africa, this is the year, as you know, of the indigenous languages.
Yes.
And they've just had a big conference on indigenous languages. And what's beautiful is that people now are not trying to get rid of languages. We're trying to figure out how to make these indigenous languages more robust.
More stronger, yes.
And I think we should do this in every African country. I mean, there's no need. I mean, Nigeria has over 250 languages. There's no need to wipe out any languages. What you've got to do is to perhaps have one international African language. And the AU has already decided that should be Kiswahili. So we learn our own languages, and then we learn Kiswahili, which will allow us to caucus with black people anywhere in the world.
I think that's an excellent idea. So, because some people said Swahili, other people said, it's kind of connected to the Arabs a bit more. Should we have some? But I still say it is an African language, yes.
Yeah, and it's a misunderstanding about the connected to the Arabs. I mean, basically, it is a Bantu language, but it does have Arab words in it, mainly because of the trade with the Arabs. But
East African
but English has a whole lot of Latin words, but it's called a Germanic language. So so having the words have a lot to do with transactions and trade rather than with the basic structure of the philosophy.
Well, can I ask you, what are your thoughts on the AU generally as an institution?
Why would you bring me?
I don't want to get into trouble.
Why would you bring me all the way from Philadelphia to get me mixed up with this whole political question of the AU? I don't have much regard for the AU right now. My problem is this. When the AU was created in 2002 or thereabout, that the aim of the AU was to do one thing, only one thing, and that was to bring into existence what we, the Afrocentricity International, has always called the United States of Africa or African Unity. That was one purpose of the creation of the AU, and the reason they went from the OAU to the AU was because the OAU's purpose was to get rid of colonial and settler influences in Africa, and also to work toward African union. They did the first. They got rid of the settlers and colonialism, colonization, but they couldn't get rid. They couldn't bring into existence African unity in the sense of the United States of Africa, and that's why Gaddafi actually was the one who made this proposal that we have to have the United States of Africa. And I still believe that that's essential. And AU is not pushing that. AU is getting involved in it. I mean, this is all good things. You get involved when trying to help the children. You're getting involved trying to solve diseases. You're getting involved in trying to do this with the Chinese and that with the Americans and so on, but not to do the fundamental job, which is to bring into existence the United States of Africa. And then, of course, 30% of the budget is from Europe. And so that's the problem.
Some African nations don't actually pay their dues, apparently. So
absolutely.
The Europeans fund a lot of...
Absolutely. The nations can pay their dues. Africa can pay its way.
Of course.
That's what we talk about when we talk about being African-centered. Afrocentric. We don't normally use African-centered. But the idea of being Afrocentric is that as a nation state, you need to take care of your business. And Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, South Africa, Ghana, Congo, they can pay all the bills for the AU.
For the whole,
But they haven't decided to do it. And so if they're listening, you know, tell your people to do it.
Okay, I'll do good. So you was just speaking about the African cultural system, really. So no matter where we are, whether I live in a mountain or my people live by the sea, we've still got very similar cultural system there, that we believe that the creator spirit is in all things.
Yes, of
And
course.
we give a reverence to the environment we live in, because that's all
Right.
aspects of what the creator created.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Because I saw maybe a few years ago that obviously in the USA, and the sister said more or less, because obviously the Christian church, oh, I'm glad that I was enslaved because now I've got Jesus. If I was in Africa, I'll be worshiping a tree. But she doesn't understand the concept that we don't worship trees, we worship the creator, because the creator spirit is within these things.
Yeah, Jesus has done, as far from my angle, Jesus has done a lot of damage to black people.
A great deal of, Well, on one level, did he really exist?
Well,
But
people can
on
say
another
that,
level,
and some people say, well, it wasn't Jesus, it was the people who believe in Jesus.
Yes,
Well, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, really.
I mean, you know, we need to, well, you know, what I found my greatest strength is in those people, my own heroes. I've canonized my own saints.
Right.
Marcus Garvey, for example.
Of course,
You
yes,
see,
yes.
That's important to me.
That's very good, very good.
Yeah.
So, technology, because as you said, and we well know this, that science is actually started in Africa.
Yes, of course. I mean, from chemistry, biology, geometry, arithmetic, even philosophy itself.
Philosophy,
Yes, of course.
medicine,
Medicine,
yeah.
yes. The first medical doctor was Imhotep.
Oh, of course, yes. The world's first intellect. You could well argue.
Absolutely.
So why? I mean, we should be mastering sciences today, shouldn't we?
Yes, of course.
We should have our own, African continent, I believe, should have their own satellite, for example.
Absolutely.
Even one for the whole African.
Absolutely. We have to have. We can have. We will have. It will be done. This is This is why Afrocentricity has become the most dominant paradigm on the African continent. It is growing very rapidly in places where people are trying to resolve the issue of what intellectual ideas are necessary for Africa to advance itself, you see? And you have to go back and interrogate your own history, your culture, and you find out, wow, math? I mean, geometry? I mean, when the pyramids were built, 2500 BC or 2700 BC, there was no Greece. It didn't even exist. There were no Greek philosophers or mathematicians or geometry people. There was none of that. No British, no American,
of course,
no German.
The land was there, but there's no evidence of any culture.
Not at all. So geometry had to be used to build the pyramids.
Sure.
Who created this?
Very
It had
true.
to be the black people.
So why? Okay, I think it's obvious, really. But Europeans, because many of us. Okay, put it another way. When, because you just spoke about getting out the colonists out of Africa, when they left, African leaders did not remove their institutions.
Well, that's a problem, and that is why they have now this new notion of decoloniality, where people are saying, well, we got rid of decolonization, but we didn't get rid of decoloniality. And so we've now got to move on decoloniality. My idea is that the solution to all of that is Afrocentricity. Because what Afrocentricity does is not just say we got to bring down the statue of Cecil John Rhodes. We say, what are you going to put up?
Good point.
What statue are you going to honor? But if you don't interrogate your own history or culture, you don't know what to do after that.
Excellent.
And so you keep in place a decolonial mentality.
Very true. Yeah, it's a very, very good point you make there. Because you say you remove the statue, which is really a symbol, which is still powerful, of Rhodes or else. But what are you putting in?
Yeah.
In effect, Rhodes is still there if the curriculum is still
Absolutely.
European.
Absolutely.
And we still got their institutions.
Perfectly
It was
clear.
a very good point. Okay, good. So what would it take then for, or do you believe, say one African nation adopted an Afrocentric curriculum within the school system?
We would have a revolution throughout the continent and in the diaspora. We would be so happy. The world would be a different place. If we had one nation that simply said, that we're going to, from this day forward, we're going to be an Afrocentric nation. We're going to work in the best interest of African people. that is our goal, to work in the best interest of African people, for African people, believing that all of the examples that we have, whether they're examples of beauty, of intelligence, of intellect, philosophy, whatever they are, that we're going to endear ourselves to the idea that we're embracing an Afrocentric worldview. If we did that, there would be a revolution that would just go throughout the continent. But no one has yet been brave enough to do it, because we really fear that we would be prevented somehow, because we don't have enough confidence yet in ourselves. So that's why you get African leaders, for example, following American white evangelists, or you get African presidents determining that somehow they have to follow the Chinese, because they've never interrogated themselves to know that everything we need is within Africa.
Yes. Because I mean, we shouldn't say or believe that it's not that we shouldn't look and see what others have done, and maybe look at some of their good traits what they've done.
Absolutely.
But we must start from ourselves.
Absolutely.
We must start from the centre first.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, we've done it. We're the oldest people on the planet.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing we really haven't done before.
That's right.
We need to go
Absolutely.
through.
Because we respect everybody. We have to. I mean, the first nation in the world was Kemet, and that nation was combined of 42 different ethnic groups. And when Menes conquered those 42 groups along the Nile River and molded them into one nation, he did something that was repeated in many places, so that now we have people calling themselves nations. But there was kingdoms before. But this was a very powerful thing that Africa did, and led the world in this.
Okay. I never heard anybody speak about it like that. I know Kemet had 42 nomes or areas.
Yeah, but they say nomes.
But
But these were different ethnic groups with different names for the divine, with in some cases different languages and so forth. He molded them together and gave them one central place.
The first city state, or the first, my apologies for first nation state. Because other people were just, because I did some political science at university, and obviously, as you know, they will start with the Greeks. But the Greeks were city states. They had like a city and a wall around it.
There you go.
But
that's right.
Kemet had to do with borders.
That's right.
Hundreds of miles, thousands of miles. So we don't really know the truth.
Absolutely.
And obviously the first kind of, I think it's that peace treaty between Ramesses. Well, I never heard this when it's talked about peace treaty between different nations. So
that's right.
We need to write out. So you travel in Africa a lot, I know. So is there a nation you think who may be leaning towards having, or who may be easier to adopt an Afrocentric kind of curriculum in some part of their system of their education?
Well, let me just say this. In my book, The History of Africa, which is in its third edition, I've claimed, and I do believe this, that South Africa has a good chance, but it's going to take a lot. I mean, there's a lot of issues there, but at least at the leadership level, in some ministries, you have Afrocentric people who are leading the Ministry of Education. You have Afrocentrists who's leading, declared Afrocentrist. I mean, not somebody who I think is an Afro, but who says he's an Afrocentrist.
Okay, in speaking with them, yes.
Who is a Minister of Sports, Arts, and Culture, Minister Nati Matetwa. Is extremely advanced in his understanding of what has to happen. So there are people who are positioned, but it's not necessarily universally true in the government in South Africa, nor necessarily universally true in the country, mainly because of ethnic clashes that have occurred, competition, businesses, and so forth. But overall, the adoption of Afrocentricity by, for example, the University of South Africa. Last year, where they invited me in to speak to all faculties, law, agriculture.
So this is it's not the students, it's all the tutors and the actual faculty, the body.
Everybody in the faculty. The Vice Chancellor said, I want you to talk about Afrocentricity to all of my faculty.
Excellent, yes.
Because I want all of the faculty to now turn their interest, their research interest, in an Afrocentric way. And I told him that never happened anywhere else in Africa.
Right.
Never happened in any of the historically black colleges in the U.S.
Okay,
This
yes,
was
yes.
a profound moment where almost
Yes.
800 people within the week had this conversation with me about how you turn agriculture into an Afrocentric project, or how you turn law to your own customs and go back and try to dig up what was it that we understood that created the civilizations that lasted a long period of time before our interactions with Arabs and Europeans.
Yes, yes.
So it's a good start.
It's a good start. I think it's a very powerful one, yes.
And I think I see it growing in different segments
Yes,
because people
yes.
are moving.
Excellent. Because when you're talking about agriculture, and I remember, I think is it TED Talks, they do those things, and I think she's in the government, I can't remember the nation now, but they examined their own agriculture from
Yes,
back in the day.
yes.
And it says that what they did and they adopted again was much more efficient.
Absolutely.
And it yielded more crops.
Much healthier for
Yeah,
you.
and they got the different things there. Very, very true, yeah.
That's right.
So it's excellent. So what we can do, we'll have a short break. And we'll come back in a little while, okay? Musical break, okay? So, yeah, family, I hope you're enjoying this talk here. That was Dr. Molefi Kete Asante speaking about Afrocentricity. I'm sure he was very intrigued of what he said and gave us a lot of information. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll come back on the other side. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show, and this is Brother Jeg now, and we'll be back after a short musical break.
Black is the color of my skin. Black is the life that I live.
say, are you ready? Take it. Queen Majesty, may I speak to thee? So much I've longed to speak to you alone. Truly I agree, I'm not of your society. I'm not a kid, just a minstrel. But my song to you I sing. Though just a minstrel, in life we're so far apart. Royal Queen, I see love in your eyes. Your eyes. I love you too. Oh, Your Majesty, I love you too. Oh man, Your Majesty. Oh, is it really true? These things I ask of you. Oh, Your Majesty, could you really care for me? Just as long as you love me, and it won't be so hard. Oh no, Royal Queen, I see love in your eyes. Yeah. I love you too. Oh yeah, Your Majesty. I love you, Your Majesty. Whoa, whoa, yeah, oh yeah. Your Majesty. Could you care for me? Would you? Would you really and truly care for me? A poor man like me, yeah. I need to be in your corner. Your corner is where I wanna be. Ooh, and Your Majesty. Whoa, whoa, please care for me.
Yes, hello family. We are back again on the other side of this musical break. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show. We have some great guests today. We've already had Tamu Mazama speaking about her new book. We just spoke to Dr. Molefi Kete Asante on Afrocentricity, Afro-centered thought, and all things kind of African as well. So we are lucky to now to have Dr. Amma Mazama. Dr. Amma Mazama is a Mambo, that is a voodoo priestess. So she's been initiated in Haiti, I believe, also in Benin. She's been to Benin to study the root of it as well. So we're going to speak to her. So Dr. Amma Mazama, it's nice of you to be here. Are you enjoying your visit here in the UK today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Great, yeah. So let me just ask you very quickly. Last night we was at the PATAR Awards. What was your, because it was the first one ever. So what do you think about the PATAR Awards we was at last night?
I think it's a wonderful event. I think that too often we seek validation from Europeans, but validation has to come from within.
Of course, yes.
That's the only true validation.
Because I think,
Especially in the context in which we live, which is that Europeans will not validate anything that benefits us.
okay, very, very true, very true. So we got to, validate ourselves. I think the brother said, who said that he saw at the time, I think it was the Academy Awards, and people crying about not being, having awards or even nominated. So that's why he said, well, we just need to just create our own stuff. So I think that was the idea behind it, what he said, yeah. Good. So, okay, so, right, so it's really great to have you here today. So first of all, I'd like to speak a little bit about education. So if we because I know you, well, you could probably tell us, you run is it the PhD and even the master's degree department in Temple University? So can you tell us a little bit about that, please? What you do in Temple University, please, in Philadelphia?
Well, in 1988, the first PhD in African American Studies was created under the leadership and out of the vision of Dr. Molefi, Kete, Asante.
Yes, yes.
And so, what was revolutionary about this was twofold. One, that there could be a PhD in Black Studies, because when you have a PhD, that means that you are qualified to do research of a disciplinary nature.
Okay.
Right? And so that was very important in terms of the institutionalization of Black Studies, which had been challenged, whose existence had been challenged by many white and sometimes Black administrators and faculty who didn't think that there was anything about Black people that was worthy of being studied, and certainly not at the university level. And the second impact was the fact that Dr. Asante proposed the PhD, but he also proposed a paradigm to ground the doctoral studies, and he said this paradigm has to be Afrocentricity. So we created the discipline of Africology.
Oh, Africology. So Africology, how would you define Africology itself, the term?
It is the Afrocentric study
of
African phenomena.
Excellent.
So we're not just studying Black issues, but we're studying the Black experience worldwide from the perspective of African people, because otherwise what you have is slave studies or colonial studies.
Okay, yes. Okay, excellent. So you really from the root, from the beginning, East Africa, humanity, original humanity, right into all African history and diaspora history, everywhere African people are. You'd studied all those areas, but from the eyes of from the center of African
people, being centered in our history and culture. So not we not just repeat what white people write about us, right?
Excellent.
We do the research to find out who we really were and are from our understanding
perspective,
of
yes.
ourselves.
So in the educational system, you're saying if you are PhD level, that gives you, like, the strength to say, I'm going to carry out my own research. Absolutely. I can establish my own courses or system of education within the educational system as well.
Yes, and it's also for us a way of training, other Black people who are scholars, and train them in Africology. So when they go out, they do likewise.
Excellent.
Teach the hundreds and thousands of young Black people. They will teach them from their own perspective. So, there's also this activist aspect to the work that we do, which is at the heart of Black Studies to begin with. Excellent.
So, yes, it kind of come out from the Black Studies phenomenon in the 60s, where people start to say, yes, we need to have our own thing, and really, with this course, what you've created now, the PhD, with Dr. Molefi and yourself have created and facilitated now, this is really, it's made it explode now, really.
Absolutely, because you see, we wanted Black Studies to serve the Black community, to really liberate us, on many different levels. But
excellent.
If you are not mentally free, meaning that if you keep operating within the concepts of your enemies,
yes,
right? If you keep being what Wade Nobles called mentally or conceptually incarcerated, without knowing it, that's the worst part. And we usually don't know it because we are trained by European professors, we read European authors' books, and so we accept many of their concepts, theories, because they are presented as such, as universal and objective. But I like to remind my students that Europeans really make up less than 10% of the world's population.
Very true.
And they're really going down, which is a topic I like to mention.
Yes.
But, being that they're such a tiny minority, why should their viewpoint apply to the rest of humanity?
Yes.
That doesn't even make sense.
I agree. I think it was Amos Wilson says that for 10% of the world to rule the world, they must have made the
doesn't
90%
make sense.
a bit crazy or take them out of their mind after their Santa,
Brainwash.
for them to do it. So, I mean, it's a brilliant system if you if you can do it. But as you said, they are getting weaker. So I always say to people, that's why we as African people need to get strong now,
It's the time.
because it's our time to come forward now. Excellent. Thank you for that. So let me ask you, pedagogy of Kemet, Kush, pre-Arab in Africa as well. Are there certain areas, certain tenets of African education and systems from our own systems, which you said we could, or can you make us aware of? Are there certain things that Africans did within the educational systems, which is completely African, which you think, we could focus on these, use these for us today?
Yeah. I think that we must make a distinction between schooling and education.
Okay,
I think
okay.
that's very important.
Okay,
You
please.
So in the African context, and going back to Kemet, but more contemporary, more recent societies, the spiritual aspect
Yes.
and the holistic dimension of education,
Yes.
right, is very important. Whereas the European system is really strictly intellectual. Right. So as African people, when we look at our understanding, when we probe our understanding of education, we realize that we must give this holistic, education, and not just the intellectual part, the character development, spiritual elevation, which begins with, reverence for your ancestors.
Right, yes.
Right. And so on and so forth. So when we talk about Afrocentric education, we're really talking about incorporating this particular conception. We're thinking what it means to be educated, not just adding information here and there about Kemet or Kush, right?
Yes.
Not just dropping in the names of a few African kings and queens.
Very true, yes.
That's very superficial. But unfortunately, this is what happens a lot in the name of Afrocentric education. So, and there are reasons for that.
Yes.
But we really need to do, a better and deeper rethinking, of education from an Afrocentric standpoint.
So you're saying basically within certain African educational systems, it wasn't just facts and dates and things like that. They built the character of the person as well, was a key part, their spirituality. This is all part of their educational system.
Yeah, absolutely. When in Kemet, for example, the purpose was to become one with God, right? With
Yes.
supreme divinity.
Yes.
And so the whole system was geared towards spiritual elevation, but spiritual elevation is no escapism either.
Right.
So it was all manifested, your divinity was manifested in your character and your behavior and your actions, right?
Yes.
So, this
Yes,
is what
very
we're
true,
looking
yes.
at.
Because I believe they, from a reading, like Stolen Legacy, for example, the aim of it is really to become like God, become God-like,
Absolutely.
higher spiritual matter. Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. Thank you for that. Good. So, there's something I was thinking about because education of Europe. Partly you mentioned that kings and queens are that because that's not really the European thought. They don't really speak about the common people. Their history is generally kings, queens, and wars. That's what I noticed. So sometimes we may want to follow that sort of idea, that sort of paradigm, right? You don't really get to know the people, just saying kings and queens and wars as well. Okay.
Well, focus on individuals,
Yes.
as opposed to the people themselves who even bring those individuals into existence.
Right, yes.
And who were with them, as they performed whatever, heroic deeds that they had done.
What they have done as well. Yes. It's excellent, yeah. Because it is Dr. Bobby Wright has said that we need to create our own social system of education.
Yes.
So, and he said it's critical that we have our own social system. So, can you just talk about that? How would you define what he was saying?
Well, what he's talking about is really the dilemma in which we find ourselves. Even at Temple University,
Yes.
We've created this department of Africology.
Right.
But it's always, we always have to struggle and fight to maintain our existence. And we always
Right.
have to function within, white institutional, confines,
Right.
which, dictate, many of the things that we have to do to
Okay.
comply, you see.
Yes.
And so that's the paradox, and that's also the dilemma that we have. How do we create a social system within a social system?
Within the
right?
social system.
I'm talking about us who are located in the diaspora. But if it's on the African continent,
Yes.
it should be much easier. And Dr. Asante was talking about this.
Yes.
If one African country decided to adopt an Afrocentric educational system, having the latitude to do so and to implement this
Yes.
would be just wonderful. And
Yes.
that's what Bobby Wright is talking about. How do we have an educational system for true liberation, right,
Yes.
of African people?
Excellent.
And that's why, in my case, living in the United States, I decided not to send my children to school. So
Okay.
there's a growing, home school movement,
Excellent. Yes.
education at home movement among black people in the United States.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because when you is there a criteria? Okay, when you educate from home, how does the the state wants to influence you somewhere along. What must you do? How will you prove that they are learning? Can you just put them independently into exams so they could get the grading of different?
No, they don't have to receive grades. They just have to be evaluated at the end of the year.
Each year?
Yeah, but it's not an exam.
Okay,
You
okay.
submit a portfolio, samples of the work
Okay.
that the child has done,
Excellent.
and then the school district would approve or not approve.
Excellent.
But there's much latitude because you can basically teach whatever you want
Whatever you want. Okay.
and avoid what you don't want to teach.
Oh, okay, good. And from your own experience, then, when you've submitted a portfolio, has there been issues before, or normally they just because of the
Never.
level of work? Yeah, never.
No.
Okay, that's really good. Okay, excellent, good. So, right. So I'd like to talk a little bit about spirituality and religion as well. So, can you tell us a little bit? You are initiated. You're a voodoo priestess.
Yes, I'm a Mambo.
A Mambo. Okay, excellent.
I'm a
Thank you for the
voodoo
girl.
priestess.
And this was in Haiti.
I was initiated in Haiti, yes.
Yes, good. So, can you tell me how long that kind of procedure, or how did you approach to become a Mambo in the first place? If I can ask that, is that something I can ask when you decide to do it? And
No.
No?
I mean, you can ask.
I can
It's
ask,
not,
but
it's
yeah,
not
okay.
a problem. Yeah.
I don't ask about. Okay, but is it something that you said that you just
it
wanted
was-
to do?
No. It's not something I wanted to do. It's not.
Okay.
No, I really did not want to do it. I
Okay.
mean, this was not. I wasn't looking for this. It happened when I went to Haiti in 2000.
Okay.
And I had some existential questions, and I
Okay.
went for a divination.
Okay.
And when I went for the divination to a Hugon, was a voodoo priest.
Yes.
First thing he said to me was that I was a Mambo, and I
Oh, I
was born a
see.
Mambo, and I should be initiated. I did not want to believe that. I was not ready for that. This is
Okay,
not
I
what
see.
This is not what I had gone for, because I knew
Okay.
the implications would be tremendous.
It's tremendous. Yes.
So I decided to go see another diviner, another Hugon,
Right.
far
How
away.
do you spell that? Hugon?
Yeah,
Is it H?
Yeah, you can put a H. HOUGAN.
Okay. Okay. So that's really the male to a Mambo.
Yeah, exactly.
Hugon.
And
Okay.
so I went to see another one who lived
Yes.
far away.
Mm.
And so, so there would be no communication.
Yeah, between, yes.
possible.
Yes.
And so I went to another town.
Yes.
And then I was told the same thing.
Wow, okay.
So I still did not surrender.
Yes.
And then I went to see a third one.
Okay.
And who told me the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
So
Three.
I-
Wow.
So I went back to the
There's
first one.
something that, yes.
And agreed that I would become initiated.
Okay,
because I also
excellent.
understood that if the spirits asked for you, called you,
Right.
and you resisted, then it could
That could be a
create
problem.
problems in your
Yeah.
life.
Okay. So something, I don't know, your ancestral line, who knows? But the ancestors
Absolutely.
probably said that you need
well,
to.
I was told that this mission or duty that
Yes.
I had really was passed on to me by one of my ancestors
Okay.
on my father's side, who I find out later was my great aunt
Okay.
on my father's side. So she was a healer.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I reincarnated in me and came back with that same spiritual mission and
Yes.
charge. So I accepted my charge and I became a Mambo.
Excellent. That's quite an amazing story. So we are chosen by things outside of yourself, powers, ancestral,
Well, if
yes.
you think that the reincarnation, that is not really outside of myself.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I am my great aunt.
You are okay.
We are
Yeah.
our ancestors.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying there. He's similar like Nihanda. It was inside of her from an ancestor line. It's inside of her. So when she stood up and did what she did, it was her. She had to do that. So
But she had that spiritual and political responsibility
as
as
well,
as
yes.
Nehonda.
okay, okay. So was it your great aunt? Did you say?
Yeah.
Did you speak to anybody who knew her or could tell you about her?
Yes, I'm very fortunate that there were still people who knew her and who told me much about her. And just on the side,
Yes.
we shared a birthday,
Wow. You really should have.
Yeah.
Okay.
April 8th.
April the 8th. Okay. So it's
It's
rubber
very
stamped
deep,
by the
yeah.
creator that you have to be.
Yeah.
You have to adopt that role. You have to be that role. Yes.
You know, life is a mystery. You know.
Yes, life is. It throws up many things we don't understand, but
That's
we
right.
got a path. But maybe okay, there's a path. Yeah, excellent. So, spirituality and religion. How would you define the two? What are the differences between the two? So people are not aware of this.
Well,
From your perspective.
I prefer to speak about spirituality.
Okay, sure.
Because really, there's no African word for religion.
Yes.
But if we talk about, because spirituality for us is a way of life, as African
Yes.
people. It's
In
not
your culture, in fact, your culture,
yeah,
your cultural.
in African culture, it's not like we're spiritual on Sundays between 10 and 2,
Yes,
and,
yes.
when we go talk to someone,
Yeah. Go to church on
it's-
Sunday and you sing
yeah.
all the rest of the week. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not like that for us African people,
right.
so it's really a way of life.
It's a way of
It's a
life,
way
yes.
of life, and it permeates everything we do, everything we believe, so it's much more profound in that regard.
Excellent. Okay.
Religion, there's a political aspect to it, there's an
Yes.
institutional aspect to it, and it has not always been good for people.
Very true, and yes, you're kind of locked in. Well, I think Dr. Ben, but they said religion, the way it comes to today, is more like a business, really. So you have to put funds in there, and they say you must do what we say and follow there's no latitude or. I think the spirituality, people do say your relationship with the creator or the spirits or the ancestors is like a personal thing.
There's a controlling aspect
yes.
to it that is very, very serious. When you think about Christianity and Islam, these are religions that were created really for political reasons.
Right, okay, yes.
Not for spiritual reasons, but really for political reasons. And they are still maintained for political reasons. To control. You see, and of course now I'll talk about it tonight, but of course now the psychological elements, which is very profound, when you basically make people live in terror, the terror of going to hell. So you can really control them very nicely, without having to whip them or chain them like we used to. So. But spirituality is something very different.
It's very different. We don't. It's not. In fact, it's the culture of the people.
That's right.
So you don't really say beat people or chain people to say follow my culture. It's either for you or it's not for you. But if you're African, it's natural to.
Yeah, spirituality is this feeling of being part of something that is greater than yourself.
Yes.
And something that is profound, that is very deep, that reflects the mystery of life. You see, like I was telling you my story. But we all have stories. We just don't know our stories.
We don't know our stories.
We never, maybe care to
look or come in contact with somebody who maybe could show you.
We're looking into another direction.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
But if we looked for our own personal story, we would find amazing things.
So what would you say to people, even though you don't speak about religion, but what people said that, well, I mean, this religion is mine. I mean, I don't see any problem with it. I think Jesus came for me, so.
The truth of the matter.
Or it could be Allah.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is that we would never be Christian if our enslavers and colonizers were not Christian.
True.
Or Muslim.
Oh, Muslim, yes,
So
yes.
we have to be very honest about that.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it's not because we invented Christianity or that Christianity derived from
Yes.
Kemet or Africa that we
Yes.
are Christian. This is not true. Or Muslim, and we really need to take a look at this very honestly. I know it's
Yes,
painful.
It is painful, yes.
It's very painful, but we have to be very honest and stop deluding ourselves that Christianity is ours, that Jesus came to die for us. No, if Jesus came, and I don't believe that he came, I don't believe that he ever existed, but admitting that he came for people who looked like him. And we do not look like Jesus. Jesus was not invented by African people. Jesus was not created by Africans. Jesus was created by Europeans to protect them, guide them, and enhance their lives, which he has done quite well, even as a figment of their imagination.
Yes, yes.
He served them very well. So why do we think that the God of our oppressors could be our God? It's because we've accepted our defeat.
Yes.
That we can, speak like that. And the same thing applies to Allah. They say that Allah only speaks Arabic. I don't speak Arabic. Arabic isn't an African language. So what kind of person that makes me if I pray or worship a God whose language was never mine to begin with?
Yeah, I agree 100%
How
with that,
much
yes.
self-respect do I have?
Yes. 'Cause I think yourself, and I know that, Dr. Molefi said as well that when you, I think you said it last night actually, that when you are honouring other people's ancestors, you're forgetting your own ancestors.
And it makes you weak. You see, it makes you
yes.
very weak because all of our spiritual energy goes into making those people stronger.
Strong,
You see,
right.
when you pray to Allah or Jesus, you are abandoning your own spiritual matrix and you're giving all of your spiritual energy to these people,
Right, okay.
Then you wonder why we have so many problems.
Okay, yeah. So in fact, you're strengthening the people who actually oppressing you. Don't really, yeah.
Absolutely. But you see, and I say this from personal experience, when you go back to your roots, to your ancestral, which means spiritual roots,
Yes.
it makes you much stronger.
It does.
It really does. It makes things very clear. And you have no fear because you know that your ancestors are with you.
Okay.
You
okay,
see?
Yes.
And this is what we don't have, We think that this white guy or this Arab guy are with us. I mean, it doesn't, I'm sorry, but there's not much to show for that belief.
So what guidance would you give people? Say somebody said, okay, excuse me. I know some people said to that, I've been in religion for so long now, but I know it's not for me. I know it's not right for me. And I want to move away, but I'm not quite sure what steps to take. So could you give any sort of guidance where maybe somebody said, how will they get in touch with maybe with the ancestors or maybe create a shrine for themselves? So what sort of guidance would you say, or what maybe research they could do for themselves?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, stop going to the church. Stop going to the mosque. Every time you want to say, Jesus help me, say, my ancestors, please help me. Or say, replace those foreign names with names of your ancestors, and then set up a shrine for them.
Okay.
And set up a shrine. You need a
Yes.
table with a white tablecloth. You may have 3 or 7 white candles.
Okay.
Have an incense holder, burn some incense.
Okay.
Have a container full of water. Put a basket with fruits that your ancestors liked.
Okay.
Right? And then get started.
Okay, good.
And when you want to really connect with your ancestors more particularly, knowing that they are with you all the time. And of course, if you have items that belong to them on a personal level, you may place them on that table, on your shrine. And then burn your incense, light your candles.
Yes.
Maybe you want to wear some white clothes or
White
whatever,
cloth, okay, yes.
And then communicate with them and see what happens.
Okay.
I guarantee that you will have much greater results than with Jesus and Allah.
Excellent, excellent. So could people pray? Could they sing? So when they go to the shrine, what other things can they do to look at, or just talk?
Yeah, they should just talk.
Just
They
talk.
can talk aloud, only talk within themselves. And then if they're really interested, then they should get in touch with Afrocentricity International, because you see, we've developed what we call a muikadilo muya, which is really a program of reorientation towards our
Okay.
ancestors. Because I know,
Okay.
I speak like that. I know it's not easy. I get
Yes.
emails
gonna
all
take
the
time.
time from
Yes.
people who ask for advice, and I'm always happy to give advice.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you do this? How do you proceed? But Afrocentricity International, we've been very much involved in this, spiritual reorientation, relocation of our people. Because
Right,
Afrocentricity is not about just the intellectual part. But remember what we said, it's a holistic thing.
Right. Holistic of the person.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's also about spirituality. And maybe that ultimately it's about spirituality. You're going back home, going back to yourself means going back to your ancestors.
Excellent.
And
excellent.
that is by definition a spiritual thing, or a spiritual quest, this connection to your ancestors, which is an African universal.
Yes.
There's no people in Africa that do not, unless they're out of their mind, unless they are severely dislocated, that will not understand the importance of maintaining a healthy, dynamic, positive relationship with their ancestors.
With ancestors, yes, yes. So you spoke about your personal ancestry. You could have parts of, I don't know, clothing, something that belonged to them. But could you have people enshrine like Malcolm X, for example,
You
or
can
other
do that.
people which weren't direct ancestors, but and speak to them?
You want to have your own personal ancestors,
Okay.
right? Because your ancestors, from your lineage, right?
okay.
That means I'm talking about blood. here.
Yes,
That's
yes.
very important for us as African
Okay,
people.
right.
But you can also have what I call the collective ancestors.
Okay.
People who I have a picture of Marcus Garvey on my shrine.
Okay, good.
Marcus
Yes.
Garvey means a lot to me. So I have a picture of Marcus Garvey. on my
Right, yes.
shrine. And who knows, maybe there is a blood connection.
You never
You
know.
We never
Strange
know,
things happen,
given
yes.
our tormented and disrupted history,
Yes.
we don't know. But there's only a spiritual connection in the sense that this is someone who has done a lot to bring
Okay.
clarity to my
Yes.
life. So you can do both, but certainly you should have your own personal ancestors.
Your own personal
first and
ancestors, yes.
foremost.
Because, ancestors who left a great example to follow,
Yes.
they should still be respected in that way as well.
Absolutely.
So you could call their name if you wanted to,
Absolutely.
but your direct line is a more of a direct thing.
Yes.
And that's really good. I was going to ask you about people want to set up, because people ask me, how'd you set up a shrine? And I've given them a few ideas, but you give me some good ideas myself.
What we're going to do with for AI is we're going to make a video
Okay,
and show practically how the different steps. And then
okay.
the people can access, the video.
Access to that resource
Yeah.
to see how they can set up their own shrine and things like that.
Afrocentricity International and see what it should look like.
That's a great idea,
And I
yes.
think we really need to do this. And if I may talk about the work that we're doing on the continent, talking
Yes.
about ancestral shrines, and we're building, this temple in Ivory Coast,
That's right.
right? Because we take this very seriously.
Because the ancestral temple of Wakidilio, I don't
The
pronounce it.
Wikadilo Muya.
Okay,
the
so what does that
Wikadilo-
mean itself?
Wikadilo
Muya.
Wikadilo Muya
Yes.
means to become sacred.
Okay, to become
Because,
sacred.
that has been our major problem, our desacralization
Yes.
at the hands of our enemies and oppressors, to the point that we think that in order to be sacred, we have to go through them. And that's
yes.
why, we go to their church, we go to their mosque, we go to Mecca, we go to wherever.
We go everywhere else, yes,
We
yes.
go everywhere else but home.
So this shrine, can I ask, why do you pick the location where it is, or where it's being built at the moment? Is there a particular reason? Yes.
We picked Ivory Coast because the division of Ivory Coast was our first division on the African continent, and we also believe that this division has what it takes to carry out that
Excellent.
project.
Okay.
You see, that they really understand. And also, if you remember, about 10 years ago or so, Ivory Coast went through a major crisis with the French
With
going
war,
in with the war.
violence, yes,
And so
yes.
our statement is, okay, you won that one, but we have not given up that space.
Okay.
And we will, just like Neonde said, we'll come back and we will win that final battle.
Yes,
because
yes.
the battle is fundamentally spiritual.
Victory is our destiny, yes,
Victory
yes.
is our destiny. So we're not giving up Ivory Coast.
So the land where it's placed, how was that land, the actual land itself, chosen? Was there a particular reason where the temple's being built?
We chose a land that is really in a rural area, but not too far from Abidjan. It takes about 40 minutes to get there.
Traveling, yes.
And we also needed a river.
Okay.
right? Not
Close
too
by.
far,
Okay.
close by for the
Yeah.
rituals of purification.
Right.
And so that's about what dictated our choice. And then we paid for our land. We paid
Good.
ourselves. The organization
Good.
paid itself. We
Good,
paid
good, yes.
$37,000 for our land
Yes.
because
Yes.
we wanted to control it.
Yes. Yes.
And we, in the midst of raising money to build the temple
You're
itself.
moving towards the target because last time I checked, the money's going up, but it's obviously still.
Yes.
I posted it on the Afrocentricity International Facebook page, UK Facebook page, so that people can click on it and donate themselves.
Yes, yes.
So it's
But
moving slowly.
We already started. We've already built 2 structures there.
Okay.
One is a dormitory, so we can actually receive 8 people
Okay.
who could sleep on site. And then the other place is like a small auditorium.
Okay.
And so this is what we use for the time being for our spiritual work.
Oh, okay.
And we conduct initiations.
So it's happening there now at the present.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing is that we have people coming from all over the world to look at the place
Wow.
because they could not believe it, the
What's been-
boldness of the project.
Mm,
Because
mm.
we know what's at stake,
Yes. Yes.
Once we are able to build that temple,
Yes.
then it will really give us a stronger foundation.
Of course. Yes. So, what is locally? Is there a buzz? What do people locally think about? Because obviously you've got people. Clearly, that's why it's there. You've got people who 100% support you. Do you know what other people? What's being said? Anything like that?
They are very happy.
Great.
They are
Okay.
extremely happy because, first of all, in Africa, you don't just move into a place, a village to build.
Yeah,
So
without
we-
people.
We had
Yes.
to ask for permission, and we got all permissions, we got all the approval, and they understood, what the project was fundamentally about.
Right. Good.
And we are basically integrating them, and we want them to own the place.
Okay. It's
And
like
we-
it's
we're
theirs.
not-
Yes.
Yeah, and we are not building just the shrine, the temple itself,
Okay.
but we are also making it part of a complex, what we call well-being, African well-being,
Okay.
where we will also have this medical part of it.
Okay.
Using the knowledge that African people in that particular region, in particular, have accumulated.
Yes. Yes.
All the knowledge about herbal, remedies.
Yes.
So we are validating them, and they're very very happy about this. That all this knowledge they have.
Yeah. So natural, cultural kind of
Absolutely.
medicine.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And then
yes.
the other part is the educational part,
Okay.
where we will have this, this ongoing training for the children and their parents.
Okay.
About our history, about
Okay,
culture,
good,
talk about
okay.
bringing Afrocentricity
To the people
and
itself.
making it a reality. Because many times, we act against ourselves out of ignorance.
Yes.
Not out of malice, but because we just don't know.
Well, we
better.
don't know.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
And you could be
So-
going down the wrong path.
So it's about validating ourselves.
Okay. Good. That's excellent. So, and then I'm sure ultimately you want to recreate once this place is fully built and everything's up and running.
Of course.
You'd like to elsewhere as
Of
well.
course, that's the idea.
That's
so we
the
start
idea.
there, but we need it everywhere we are.
Where we are, yes.
But we have to start somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's and it's really excellent. Yeah. So I can't. So Ivory Coast and I can't obviously the people, the language,
Yes,
is
the
that-
Akan
that
people,
Akan,
and this
which
will
we're
be,
in Ghana as well. So
yeah,
yes.
and this will be also the language that will be used at the temple. We do not believe in using a European language,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
we already do the libations and everything on the Akan language.
Okay. Because I've got something. I think you said somewhere before that religion, which you don't already talk about, but it's kind of a chauvinist, like a male dominated. So because the way
Well-
the religions normally practice is male dominated.
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
You're talking about what
Oh, my
we
apologies.
shall do?
Oh no, well. Okay.
What we'll do in
what
Ivory
you're doing,
Coast?
what you're doing in Africa, male, female,
Oh,
priestesses.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to emphasize that Afrocentricity International is the only organization that I know of currently that was created by both a male and a female.
Okay.
Dr. Asante and myself.
Yes.
And we did it, deliberately to emphasize that it will take a man and a woman.
Yes, that
to
balance
work
and harmony.
together,
Yes.
you see, to bring about a real revolution.
Mm-hmm,
You see, because too
yes.
many indeed, you have those Pan-African organizations that are totally male-dominated.
Yes, yes, yes.
They may
I've
pay
seen some myself. Yes.
they may pay lip service to the role of women, but when you look at how things are run, you see that it's clearly a totally male-dominated
Dominated.
situation.
Yes.
And we African women have a lot to contribute. We've always contributed.
Of course,
You
yes.
mentioned Neonda. I mean,
Yes.
this is a perfect example. But there are so many Neondas. you
Okay.
see.
Yes. Yes.
And we I think also as African women must step up and be more vocal.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's not to put black men down, but it's been 50, 60 years,
Yes.
right, since
Mhm.
we've been supposedly independent. And honestly, the black male leadership has been ineffective.
They've made.
Right?
Yeah. They haven't hit the mark. They've fallen down.
You agree?
Of course, I do. Yes. 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 Yes.
So I think it's time, for
Yes.
the African men to really, make room
For-
and
yes.
for us African women, because what is at stake is not only us but our children's fate.
The future.
And
Yes.
demand that we be heard and that we take our rightful place alongside
yes.
our men to fight this final battle for the
Liberation of
Africa.
people. Yes. Yes. Because when you look back into our culture, obviously we had Ma'at, and Ma'at was all about balance and harmony,
That's
and
right.
whether it's the Netchers, whether it's the pharaoh, they'll wear the woman with them. That female principle. Yes.
Yeah, and Shakanta Diop talks about it.
Mm,
You see?
yes.
And
Yes.
that's what it will take.
Yes.
What he called bicameralism, the men and women.
Right. Right.
And in most African societies, when we had not been disrupted by outsiders,
Right.
Men and women, rule the whole thing.
Always there. Yes. Yes.
You had the Queen Mother. And,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and
The
whose role was
Kentucky.
very
Kentucky. Yes.
important.
Yeah.
So
Queen Mother was very important to the whole nation. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, and I was watching on TV the other day that they got a program about the British Museum, and they got so much documents in there, and they showed Livingstone a map that Livingstone drew, and you can see what apparently he only converted one person to Christianity, but when you look at the map, he said that they've got coffee there, and they've got petroleum there, and you can grow this there. So you can see why he was there. But what I found interesting, he wrote someplace, says, "Oh, and I found a female chief there, and it's some village." Yeah, so I took a picture of it. So obviously in Africa they had female priestesses, and as you know, some parts of Africa as well, they believe the creator is female as well. The creator is female.
Well, both male and female. That the universe was a womb.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's never been a degradation of African
of-
women
yes,
in
yes.
our culture.
Yes.
This really it was introduced by chauvinistic,
Yeah,
outsiders.
outsiders to Africa.
And
Yes.
even in Vodou, in Haiti, there are more priestesses than priests.
Okay, which is very interesting. Yes.
So
There must be a reason for that. Yes.
That's right. But if you look at those religions we mentioned before, you see
Yes.
that women are never allowed to reach the highest level. Never. Because they are deemed unworthy. You see?
Yes.
But for us, in terms of our African spirituality, we see this is not the case at all. That women are reached to the highest level.
Yes. I always say that women, they're just one side of the coin, male and female, we go together.
Look,
we came together, so yes.
There is a necessary complementarity between men and women for just one basic fundamental reason, and this is the continuation of life.
Yes. Because that's how man and woman are so powerful, they can create life. But a man and a man and a woman
No.
cannot create life. I mean, they do it in their science test tube, but
that's not
it's very unnatural
and
as well.
And it still takes
Yes.
a male element and a female
Of
element.
course, too. That's right. It cannot be
So
exactly right. Yeah.
There's no way around that.
And I think that is the key to life. That's why we've got to anchor the male female, the harmonious balance as well. So that's been beautiful. So what we're going to take, we're going to take our last short break, and we'll come back just with our final. Our final comments on the day. So I hope you really enjoyed that. That was Dr. Mazama giving us so much information. I really hope you loved it. Yeah. So we'll be back in a few moments just with our final comments.
no cry again, oh. When I won't sleep, my mother go bed me. She go lie me well for bed, oh. She cover me close. She say make me sleep, my pikin, oh.
Yes, hello, family. So we're back for our closing kind of remarks, really. And we've got, again, I'm glad to say, we've got Tamu Mazama here again. So please remember that Tamu Mazama, excuse me, I just had to cough there. Tamu Mazama has just written a book, and it's called The 17 Dry Seasons. So it's a book, I'm paraphrasing it myself, of a girl maybe going for a rites of passage, and she goes through traveling through the world. She interprets or sees her barriers, and she works out how to maybe overcome those barriers. So please, 17 Dry Seasons, you can get it on Amazon, and just Google the book. Mazama, that's Mazama, 17 Dry Seasons. So I just want to ask a few more questions quickly, because I know that she's interested in travel, and I think she's got some entrepreneurial skills. So are you there, Tamu?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Good. So can you tell us a little bit about your ideas about travel and maybe taking people or other young people to the African continent, please?
So for 2020, I have planned to take a group of teenagers from Guadeloupe in the United States to Benin, because some of my peers and even their friends have showed interest in Africa and want to know about Africa. And also, one of the reasons I want to do this is because Africa has been demonized, has been shown to be a horrible, scary place that you shouldn't go to, which is not the reality. You go to Africa and you don't want to leave. Africa is such a beautiful continent.
I agree.
So much things to see and to learn. You know, when you go to Africa, you're constantly learning and engaging with people. There's just a way of life that Western societies don't have. You know. So.
I agree. I find the most beautiful. When I'm in Africa, I've been here for a while now. I find it the most beautiful place. I'm probably going to Gambia again pretty soon, but I find it the most beautiful. When their natural culture, these people are probably the most beautiful people in the world. Exactly. I always say that one bad trait they've got, they need to recognize who their enemy is, because they'll invite their enemy into their house. So,
exactly.
But apart from that, they just love people. So, what age group are you talking about? Are you talking about your age? What sort of age are you thinking of taking people to Africa?
So I'm thinking between 15 and 19.
Okay.
For the age group of this trip. And so, again, to just introduce the youth to such a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing you're carrying out there. So I wish you all the success with your book, 17 Dry Seasons. Please, everybody, go to Amazon. So that is the end of our show now. We really had a great time today. We've got so much information. I'm sure you all enjoyed it today. So I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Amma Mazama, Dr. Molefi Kete Asante, and also Tamu Mazama as well, our new author of, remember, 17 Dry Seasons. Please Google it. Please go in there. Yeah. And I'll see you guys next week again. So you have a great week. This is Brother Jegna checking out. One love, yeah? And also remember, what we do for ourselves depends on what we know about ourselves. And what we know about ourselves depends on what we are told about ourselves. And what we are taught about ourselves that's why we do the show, really, so we understand who we are and so we can do everything we need to do for ourselves. So you have a great week. I'll see you next week, yeah? One love.
Put your hands in the air, just like that. Put your hands up in the air like that. I feel alright. You like that? I like that too. Let us wave. Woo. Just wave. Now turn around to your neighbor. That's right. Turn around. Look him in the eye. Say it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright, y'all say. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. A little louder. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. That's alright, Josh. It's gonna be alright. Now I'll do it one more time. One more time. You ready? Let me hear you just like this. Say it right. Wake up. Wake up. What? Wake up now. Wake up now. Y'all sing it. Wake up. Wake up now. Wake up. Wake up now. One more time. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up now. Wake up now. All right, let's go, y'all. My father will love this. sing a church song or spiritual song. You know what I normally do. Yeah, I'm a preacher's son.